First, we're joined by Paul Ashton, a prominent foreign influencer in China. He coined the phrase "city bu city" and created a buzz on social media.
妹妹来长城，长城美不美？
美
长城 city 不 city？
不 city 啊，
大自然里不 city 啊，好无 city 啊啊！
Let's rewind a little bit and start with the Great Wall hit, the video with your sister. You asking her, is it city or not city? And she said not city. And then obviously the city bu city phrase became viral. It became such a hit, not just with Chinese, but with international travelers too. Tell us a bit about that. Was that designed or was it a spontaneous moment?
I had said city in a video a bit earlier. I kind of had like this character before that I was sort of that I was just like it was like I was going home from work one day and the temperature was lovely. I was biking and I did like this video. I'd always thought that like the code switching was kind of really fun, that I saw a lot of people in Shanghai doing, where like occasionally you'd throw an English word into a Chinese sentence or otherwise. It also had like city walk was this big thing over the last couple months, or I guess the last couple years. I always found the way that people pronounce city walk to be like a really cute pronunciation, because it's a little different from English. People will say city walk instead of city walk, which is the way that we pronounce it for American English. And we'd done like one video on the bunts before, and I'd done a couple videos by myself. A friend of mine had kind of encouraged me. He's like, that sounds really good. You should say it more. It could be your like slogan. But had no idea that that was going to blow up as big as it did. City or not city, that first happened at the Great Wall. And I think it was just a way to, city was something that we had used before in videos. And then at the Great Wall, what I thought was, versus the bunt, the Great Wall is probably not very city. And so I was thinking, if we asked the question if it was or was not city, we could have that dialogue, and it gave us a way to interact more.
After you gained popularity and notoriety in China, how's life been like? I mean, you're sought after, interviews, you're on CGTN now. I'm so happy to have you. What is life like for you now?
It's very busy. It's super exciting, at times very overwhelming, but I'm getting to do a lot of travel, which is super exciting. I just came back from Changsha, where we shot like a little, me and some other people in my MCN did a TV show together. We were in, I went to Chengdu, I went to Xichang in Sichuan province for another event. So I'm trying to keep my head above water, but also enjoy the ride as much as possible. So things have changed a lot.
Tell me, Paul, how's your international friends or the expats living in Shanghai, living in China, tell you about city or not city, that thing? How do you think they picked it up?
I think there's so much in China that's incredible, and it's, I think that, for people outside of China, they get to see a new perspective on what it's like to travel here and like see it through the eyes of somebody that is, in a similar situation as being an outsider, even though I've been here for a while and Emily had just come. But yeah, it's cool from like the international community side of things to see people that are also supportive and excited to kind of like see this become, I think also too, with China's kind of new opening up and new encouraging, like strong encouragement of travel and foreigners coming to China. I think a lot of that as well is like, it's exciting for us that are here to be a part of that. A lot of us that are here have known for a while, we're based here because we know China's got a lot to offer. So seeing it like be sort of like validated by people outside of China is also cool for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big decision, isn't it, for China to unilaterally issue visa-free travels, say, for the Europeans who don't give visa-free travels for Chinese citizens. I mean, this unilateral visa-free programs takes political courage. It takes, of course, calculation. Of course, at the point in time when China realizes that it needs to, emerging from COVID, have more international travelers. If you think about the 2008 Olympics, I'm not sure if you were there back then. And do you think scenes like that will again resurface and reappear, given China's policy directions these days?
Interestingly, I do, and largely because 2008 was like a big moment for me as like a observer from like small town USA. That opening ceremony, that whole the whole event actually, I think is one of the, I usually point as one of the big reasons why I started having an interest in China, and when Chinese language became an opportunity was something that I was interested in pursuing.
Which scene
These
struck you
like
the most? The
decision
opening ceremony, the countdown in Chinese characters? What?
I have, the drummers like leaves
Yes.
a very strong impression in my mind. And then even just like the footprints, the like I always have this like image of like the sky view of Beijing with the footprints walking towards like the Olympic ceremony,
Yeah.
fireworks that were like in the shape of footprints. It was
Yeah.
super cool. And I think the other thing too is that travel is such an amazing way for people to kind of subvert global narratives, to be able to actually experience a culture firsthand, to talk to people that are there, be on the ground and really get to know things, I think is always like a healthy way for us to better understand each other internationally. Oftentimes, when I'm talking to friends back home, it is often the visa policy that is the most intimidating for them. So taking that away it will absolutely have a big impact, and is a way for people to really get to know China in a different way.
Yeah, Paul, you talked about the 2008 Beijing Olympics made an impact on you, living and born and raised in small town America. Specifically, how so?
At that point in time, I think China in general has always, we used to say when I was young, we'd be like, oh, yeah, if we dig a hole deep enough, we'll end up in China. It was in our minds the furthest place away from us. And so, we would hear we would hear wild stories from China. It was anytime anything that was weird that was happening in the world was probably happening in Asia. And I think that when we saw the Olympics, we were able to see a different perspective on what it was like there. We were able to see more of the cultural elements. We were able to see China kind of represent itself in a different way. Very like modern state, that was growing, and like the artistic expressions and the different types of like culture and colors of the people. Those were all things that like, where I was growing up, we didn't really have the same access to that type of information until the Beijing Olympics, or based off what we saw on TV. So, I think it was a kind of transformative moment to really see China as something different than just something that was just like passed around in circles, like verbally, but actually felt like a more real place.
Yeah, it was visual, and it was huge. And you feel like a lot of international travelers fell in love with China around that time. Let's fast forward, Paul, and talk about modern day China. China is multifaceted. I mean, it's life is not always fully appreciated the nuances of the Chinese people and the Chinese culture. Modern day life in China is not fully appreciated if you read Western press, or if you talk to friends who've never been to China. How would you tell your friends back home about what China is truly like?
One of the things that I think kind of really breaks the narrative is food. Food is something that like always allows, like, I think that food is something that all of us can appreciate in different ways. And it also speaks so much to the culture, that it like you can learn so much about a culture and a culture's history through the food. So oftentimes that's usually one of the things that I'll mention the most, because it's also another big thing that in the US, Chinese American food is its own thing. I know some people really love it. Obviously it's a lot of Chinese people that are making the food. At the same time, versus what you can experience here, the vast diversity of different foods, the tastiness of it, the different ways in which you can learn through it. So that's one of the things that I oftentimes tell people is like, even if you think there's nothing else to really be experienced here, you cannot deny the fact that the food here is outstanding and it is absolutely worth experiencing. So usually I'll kind of approach it that way, where it's like, if the perspective is kind of, oh, I feel this way about China, or I have these, it's like, you get on the ground, try a couple of dishes. At the very least, you're going to experience some flavors, and you're going to eat some things that you've never thought would taste good before, and it's going to blow your mind. And then that's a great entry point to start to recognize and start to see the place from a different perspective.
You know what, Paul? I absolutely agree with you, 100%. Being here back home in China, one of my comfort zones is the food scene here, which is thoroughly impressive for those who haven't been to China and haven't tasted Chinese food in China. You're more than welcome to come. For those viewers who are watching our program wherever you are in Africa, Southeast Asia, Eurasia, Latin America, or Europe, across the Atlantic in America, wherever you are, you might be wondering, what should your China trip China travel be like if you have 3 days or a week? Who better to ask this question than Paul? I mean, Paul, if you were given the chance to show them, international travelers watching this program, what their China travel itinerary should be or could be, what would you say to them?
I would say you want to go to Shanghai, you want to go to Beijing. You can swing it. I'd go to Xi'an and Chengdu as well. I think the Great Wall is unmissable. Forbidden City, Waitan, the Bunt, Terracotta Warriors, seeing the pandas, and then eating until you explode at each of those places. And I think you're pretty much guaranteed an amazing trip. Don't be afraid to explore a little bit or wander around. Chinese people are incredibly friendly, and it's a very safe country to
let's
move
face
around.
it.
Absolutely. So if you feel tempted to like duck down an alleyway and politely walk through and wander through and just, check out the way that people are living their daily life, that's going to be an amazing experience as well. And probably someone's going to come up and say hi to you and start a conversation. So don't be alarmed.
Yeah. Bao Baoxing or Paul, thank you so much for your time. Keep up the great work. Look forward to connecting with you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Lovely talking.